What's up, everyone? Mark Armin here with the Determined Show. Hey, I bring on a special guest each and every time so they can share their life journey with us in hopes that you can gain a piece of it to let you know that you are not alone in your journey. So today I brought on Jimmy Baker sharing his journey, and the title of the show is called Reengineered Brain. Jimmy, go ahead and explain, give a little detail of who Jimmy is.
So, g'day, I'm Jimmy, and I'm in Melbourne, Australia. And as a 19-year-old, I was someone who used to ride my push bike everywhere, and quite a sciencey kind of guy. I was riding my push bike to university. On my ride home from uni that day, 2002, 2nd of September, I was hit by a speeding car, and my life changed. I have now a moderate to severe acquired brain injury, or TBI. This is around 18 years ago. And I'm now, I guess I might wait for the next question, if that's okay.
Yeah. So, Jimmy, now before we completely dive into that, I appreciate that. Now, you said in 2002 you would ride your push bike everywhere. Now, so the push bike is one of those bikes that you push with your hands or your feet, or what exactly is a push bike?
Ah, so a push bike is a bicycle, a pedal operated foot. Like, so you sit on the bike seat, hands on the handlebars, and you steer with your handlebars, sitting on the seat, and you pedal with your legs. And I found this an excellent way to stay fit. So I sort of thought to myself, if I ride everywhere I go, I'll stay in great condition.
Nice, nice. And you said that you would ride your push bike pretty much everywhere, and then you would always ride it to your university, right? That's what you said?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. So now you briefly stated that you were hit by a speeding car while you were riding your push bike to the university. Is that correct?
It was actually on the way home from the university.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so it was, I guess I mean, it's fascinating that I know these details to such intricate degree, given I was clearly not conscious when this happened. But it was 7 p.m. on that 2nd of September, 2002, and I was hit by a car that was speeding to overtake another car.
Oh, wow. Wow. Now, when that is amazing too, by the way, that you remember, such intricate details of the accident. Now,
Can
when
I,
you
do you
were
mind if I
hit
just,
by this,
I'm sorry, I missed that, Mark, but
go ahead.
I just wanted to just add one thing. I don't actually
Go
remember
ahead.
it. It's an implanted memory, if that makes sense. So I'm like, what happened to me? And then I get told this story, and I've actually latched onto that story as if it's my own memory, but it isn't. It's what I was told happened. So, yeah, sorry for interrupting
I
there,
understand.
Mark.
No, you're good. I understand now. That I mean that is a vital part of information. So, with that being said, so now you're hit by this speeding car now, and then what happens after that?
Well, it's remarkable. A pedestrian revived me on the road, and then an ambulance was called, and I was revived in the ambulance again. And then when I got to the emergency room where I needed an operation on my head, I was revived again on the operating table. So, it's indicative of how serious this trauma was, I guess.
Have to operate on your head.
Yes. It's called a craniotomy or a cranioplasty. I'll take my hat off, which is demonstrating a little bit of baldness here, but basically this part of my head, this whole side, or I don't know what you call it, you've got like two hemispheres, I guess, but it's hard to see, but I have here a big scar that goes all the way around to there, which is where they removed a piece of my skull. And the purpose of this was such that my brain could expand without being sort of tightly held into my skull. So this is a remarkable part of treatment of people with head trauma. Like, you know, when you hit or cut yourself somewhere, there's inflammation as a sort of response. Well, when you bash your head against something, I think the brain does an inflammation thing as well. And if you don't take out the container that's holding it in, if you don't open a doorway for it, that all that pressure can actually seriously increase the brain damage that occurs. So I had no right side of head skull for months, and was in fact told I had to wear a helmet. But that I mean, you can just see. I'm just trying to get. I'm actually sort of on. I can't really put it. There's a very definite scar there, but that's a craniotomy or cranioplasty. I forget which. And I guess medically speaking, the next thing to state is that I was clearly not with it at the moment. I was not aware or conscious. I mean, to be brought in onto an operating table and they open up my head with saws, take the skull out, like I was in a coma. I was actually being ventilated through a tracheostomy tube. I'm not sure if you can see the scar there, but that was a machine-run ventilation or breathing. Also ended up with a peg into my, like directly into my stomach to give me nutrition while I was in a coma. So this was a drug induced as well as, I guess, naturally occurring. But I was in that coma, I think, for a month and a half. But yes, this piece of skull was removed for months, and I then had another operation to place that piece of skull back. And to start with, it was placed back using these little sort of, I guess you call it, little rivets that held that bit of skull with the rest of my head. And so there was some times where there was some big obvious little notches that were like, these are what are holding that bit of skull to the rest of the head.
Wow, that is super, super interesting. That is very, very cool, very interesting. Yeah. Now, James, there are better ways to go on a diet than getting put on a feeding tube.
Yes,
So
that's true.
I could imagine that you lost. Right now, being on a feeding tube, you know, you obviously lost a lot of weight during that time frame, and
yes,
I would assume, you know, yeah, under 100 pounds. Um,
yeah. Look, I mean, if I could just interrupt and
when
say, there's a photo I sent that has a photograph of me in the ICU with a big thing over my tracheostomy scar, and there's a girl sitting next to me, and it's just fascinating. I looked at it, looking at what she was holding.
Boom.
There it is.
There it is.
She's holding in her hand, this is really kind of funny. What she's holding in her hand is a stress ball. You know those balls, you hold it and you're supposed to squish it together? Apparently, a friend gave me the stress ball probably assuming, oh, James has been under a lot of stress. This ball was the best gift for him. So they gave me the stress ball, and apparently I grabbed it and put it straight to my mouth and took a massive bite out of it. So I must have thought, oh, that's an apple or something. So I was ravenous. I was so hungry. Anyway, I've got it at home still. It's hilarious. There's this massive bite out of it. I mean, if I could just take this opportunity to say, what's another fascinating part of this particular part of my life is that girl sitting next to me. I remember my brother was in the room, and I said, hey, who is that chick? Who is that girl who keeps sitting next to me? Like, what's going on? Why does she keep hanging around my bed? Like, I don't get it. What's happening? And she's like, James, she is your girlfriend. I had no recollection of even knowing her. I didn't know. Incredible realization to me of how profoundly an amnesiac I was at that point. Like, I just had some memories that were sort of like really, I thought were real, and some was just a total gap. I had no understanding of it. Remarkable stuff.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, I noticed the huge divot that you had in your head. Now, how long was the bone? You said, I don't recall, you said the bone was out of your skull. How long was it out for?
See, this is where, like, I'm like, where's my parents? Where can I, like, where's the specific answer? But the answer would be, like, and this brings up another topic. Like, it's not just me who's gone through trauma. Like, this must have been the most difficult stuff for mum and dad to endure. It brings up something I'll talk about if we get the chance. But the answer would be, like, I'm not incorrect in saying the answer is months. So
yeah.
Now I might mean only a month and a half, or I might mean 2. I'm not quite sure, but like, an example is my dad's 70th birthday actually was on a yacht, and I, with an amnesia, with an ABI, just learning how to walk again, and with the balance problem and everything, managed to get on this boat, on this yacht, with my helmet on. So clearly I didn't have the bone there. And I'm like stressing out, thinking I'm going to fall for sure. I'm going to come home from this holiday with another head injury, I'll bet. But I didn't know. Anyway, this is an interesting sort of way for me to try to figure it out. Like, I could do the maths right now, but I can't really figure it out. But sometime is the answer, like long enough for it to be a necessary part of my routine, which is another topic.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, check out the scar right there. Is that the right side? Yeah, so that, when I was in this really early stage, I had so much swelling on my face. I actually thought this eye was missing. There was blood everywhere, and I lost so much blood. I got the biggest cut on my body that wasn't from the scalpel is on my right leg, and it's like I would have pissed blood out of that, and I needed transfusions. And anyway.
Wow, that's pretty intense. So, what did you break any bones from the accident?
Oh, that's such a good question. They all recovered while I was in the coma. I fractured my skull.
Oh wow.
Broke I broke a leg bone, a fibula or something. I apparently broke. This is quoting a nurse sort of lady at the hospital. I'm just going to quote her so that I'm trying to get my fingers in there. Going to quote her, even though, like, but basically she said you broke all your ribs, and
oh wow,
I'm like, where's the proof of that? So yeah, a lot of broken bones.
Yeah. Now, so
I mean,
you woke up from your coma.
Sorry, Mark. Actually, this is a really interesting point. I mean, when I was sort of coming to, so to speak, in the ABI unit, the acquired brain injury unit, I actually remembered being in so much pain, and there was this searing pain on my left hand. And what was actually on this particular finger was, I'm hoping this is, that whole fingernail was gone. It's as if I had grazed it on asphalt from being hit by the car and lost the entire fingernail. But a really cool thing is it's grown back. Like it truly shows the amazing ability for life to recover. Like my broken bones, they're all sorted as well. Like it really, there's some mind blowing stuff that occurs inside the body and the mind.
Yeah, the human body and the brain especially is,
Mm,
amazing. The brain is an amazing organ. The human body, and the ability for it to recover is just, something out of this world, all in itself. Now, you
yeah,
did say when you were coming to, that you were in a lot of pain. Now, I just want to ask this just out of pure curiosity. Now, when you were in your coma, did you recall having a dream or anything like that?
that is such an awesome question. I'm like, I'm from a very Western medical kind of background, if that makes sense. And uh, like I psychologically speaking, I'm like there's so much important stuff in that question. The answer is I actually would like to get some sort of therapy, like a hypnosis therapy, to see if I can tap into or see if I can actually somehow bring that back. But the frank truth about this is that I can't even remember being a teenager. I can't even remember, like, I would love to know. So I'm sort of going around this a long way to basically say the answer is no, I can't remember. I just don't have a recollection of it. But what was my mind doing there? I'd love to, and I just wonder if you have any suggestions about, like, would hypnosis maybe help me in a dreamy way manage to see if I can recall or relive what my mind was doing there. So it's a pretty long-winded answer that basically says no, but yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about it.
Yeah, we share a lot, in regards to what transpired while you had your acquired brain injury from what you went through and what I went through when I had my stroke and whatnot, as far as the length of a coma, the tracheotomy and whatnot. I had a fairly long dream when I was in my coma. Now, as far as the hypnosis question, I do know that I don't have a lot of answers for you, but I do know in regards that the hypnosis does, you can, like you said, tap into a lot of the unconscious, different parts of the brain,
Mm,
where you can tap into those and bring back certain memories that have been lost or forgotten. But that's about all the details that I'd be able to give you in that regards. Maybe someone can leave something in the comments for you once this video gets uploaded to give you a better answer than I can, and maybe help you out with that. Now, so you wake up from your coma now, and you said you were in a lot of pain and all that jazz. Now, the truly hard work comes in, because now you're left in a completely different state from when you essentially were on your push bike. Here you are in a pretty great physical, uh, your body's pretty good physical shape, doing push bike all the time, and now you wake up from your coma. What kind of physical state was your body in?
in the very early part, I actually was completely paralyzed on the left to the point where my smile was actually like this, if that is clear enough. And I had what they'd also call, I guess, left side neglect. Um, like I couldn't even recognize that there was someone there if they're on the left. It's it's fascinating because it's like how you perceive someone is there, in a sense, is largely a very visual thing. But like, so I'm sort of talking about the actual physical capacity and function of my left side of my body, but I'm also talking about the fact that I was blind with what they call a hemianopia, which means I had a complete, in both eyes, complete left-sided, not there kind of visual ability. Like it's almost like, you know, we all have blind spots. We have a blind spot, which I think is where the retina hits the back of the, where the optic nerve hits the back of the retina. It doesn't, the retina can't receive light at that position. Well, this blind spot is precisely like that. You almost are not consciously aware that you are blind there, but you are. And so what's beautiful about that is that has recovered from being a hemianopia, which is the whole left side gone, to being only a quadrantanopia, being only the upper top left side that's now gone. So the best way for me to put that is, if I look at someone's left shoulder, I can't see their head. But of course, it used to be if I look at their left hand, I can't see the whole body. So yeah, just making sure I got the left right correct. But I did. So, yeah. But I mean, other parts where like I had such a painful head and body, like, you know, you get told you broke all these bones and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I can feel that kind of thing. But like, I was like, I don't even want to give time to how my body feels, because at that point in time my head was so sore, like kind of like, how can I describe it? It's kind of like it was in a clamp getting tighter all the time. But what's remarkable is that despite me sort of becoming aware, then becoming aware again, because I forget, and aware again and again and again that I've got this chronic pain, was the fact that I was aware that I was managing it somehow. And I, like, to me, the fact that I had all that pain, but that I didn't let that pain be who I was, I don't know quite how to put it, other than I feel I kind of managed to rise above it. And yeah, it was it's sort of in reflection, you end up realizing it's incredible achievement, but it's hard to put into words, really.
Yeah. So essentially, you know, you you kind of, you know, pushed the pain down, but decided to, you know, move on, you know, kind of push it down, pushed it back, but just decided to keep on trucking, you know. And so you said that your left side was pretty much paralyzed, so you had to have gone through pretty intensive therapy to regain the mobility and the ability to walk and all that. So how long did that take you?
That would have taken, I mean, I did my rehabilitation in hospital, in the ABI unit, and then eventually got moved to a more general kind of area. I'm not sure. And then eventually no longer living there, but moved back to my parents' house, and was going as an outpatient to and from the rehabilitation hospital. So I'm kind of, essentially, I'm talking about how much of that was rehabilitation that aided my mobility, I guess. And the reality is my physiotherapy did continue as an outpatient as well as when I was living there. So like a trained physician now would look at me walk and say, do you have a limp? But it might take a very trained. But so the answer is, I'd say definitely months, possibly a year. and to what sort of final, what's the word, result. Like, it's kind of like after an injury you can recover, but you recover to a certain extent. And I think the answer is you're recovering to an extent that you learn to be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And a point I'll
Yeah,
make is
and
I have gotten back on the bike. I've gotten back on the push bike since this accident, and I think that is a really lovely kind of point to make. Like, I'm kind of like reintegrating with life, and who I was, kind of thing, if that makes sense.
yeah, it leads me down to, it's actually a perfect segue to the next thing that we want to discuss here, Jimmy. Um, Now, what was so we had the accident when you were 19, what you went through when you're
Yeah.
19, then the whole rehabilitation process went into when you're about 20, and then so once you hit 20 and all that, now how what was life physically and mentally from then on once you were 20? Because I know I had my injury when I was 15. I couldn't, do everything that, a normal teenager would do. So what was life like, both physically and mentally and emotionally and all that, 20 and after for you?
Well, I did feel like I was re. I'm going to use the word integrating so much here, but felt like I was attempting to reintegrate socially, attempting also to become a kind of educational client, or basically be a student again. And I found it difficult, but I also found, like, psychologically and emotionally, I think I was really feeling like I was standing out among the crowd, and not in a good way. I had this this kind of attitude that was, I think I was basing a lot of this opinion of myself on characteristics or symptoms of my ABI that weren't my fault, but it's as if I was letting them drag me down. It's as if I was letting problems I was having attack my self-worth, actually. And I think it was not comfortable at all. I think that this is how I kind of ended up with this really painful habit of, in my mind, thinking I better do something about that. It was not a very positive thing at all. And I might go back to you, Mark, just so you can redirect me if I'm on the wrong topic here. I'm not sure. Mark?
A pretty so it's safe to say in that moment right there that was a pretty rough dark time for you right there in that moment right there.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was.
And and can you also throw out maybe also as well, how long was that after your acquired brain injury?
That would be about 12 months, maybe actually. What's 12 for half a year? It would be what, like, I don't know,
18 months.
12 to 18 months after, and
Mm-hmm.
or even 2 years, 3 years. Like, it like time really does slow down in huge traumas like this. Like, I mean, you know, I'll just throw this in there. I heard actually a really good sort of golden rule about this sort of very severe trauma is that 7 years is a benchmark in time for a developmental assessment time, if that makes sense. It's like maybe it was 5 or so, I'm not sure, but basically I just wanted to speak about, I guess, this habit I had, this emotional habit, which is psychological and emotional, and a really uncomfortable one. But what I managed to do was see that routine in my mind as symptomatic of my situation rather than actually something I should act on. And for those who are listening, I'll be quite frank. I was talking about the fact that I was thinking about suicide often, and it became such a common thing. The second people would disappear from my, like, in other words, the second I was alone, boom, my mind would start thinking about it again. Every night in bed, I can't sleep. It's what I think about. It was what my mind sort of went to. But what happened was, the more my occupational, and I'm talking about what I actually did, the more I engaged in actual action, the less my mind kind of, in a sense, had an opportunity to go there. But the more joyfully it actually thought about what I do. Like, it's as if my rehabilitation consumed me, and all I could think was, I'm no good. But then I learned to look at it a different way. So I've actually made incredible, amazing achievement given where I've come from. And I managed to sort of to give these thoughts I was having a big label, which was, this is not me. So I actually feel like I approached these thoughts, this thought habit, the same way I approached the pain. So the pain, I realized, was because of something that happened to me. So I thought, I'll apply the same label to these thoughts. And it was the most courageous story I have. I think I really do. Like, it was an excellent step.
I love it. I love it. So, essentially, you know, you, instead of, you know, seeing the way that, you know, you were like, so say for instance, you had a bad day, right? And you would go down and rest, you know, instead of laying there thinking, this was, as you guys say out in Australia, this was a shit day, right? Did I use that? Did I use that correctly out there? How you guys say it in Australia? So there we go. So instead, so instead of, you know, laying there and saying, you know, this was a shit day, you know, you would lay there and say, you know, tomorrow will be a better day, right? So that's kind of like how you approached it, right?
Yeah.
With that
And, you
mindset, correct?
know,
Yeah.
I think, like, there's so much that, I mean, pardon me for saying this is way, but I think there's so much wisdom that is at our fingertips. And I mean, like, I keep doing air quotes. I don't mean to. But I think one bit of wisdom I definitely understood is that mood itself is just like the tides. You don't need trauma for mood to go up and down. Like, it's just how it is. And to in the bottom of a trough of mood, forget that. Like, I feel like I've had a lot of therapy, and I just thought to myself, well, really, in a way, I know me better than any therapist. Why don't I therapize myself? And I think one of the biggest things I've learned, especially of recent time, is giving myself space to feel things and not push it aside, not ignore it, but at the same time, just remember that these are just feelings. And I don't mean just feelings as in they're not important. I mean, like sometimes, I guess I mean space to feel things rather than space to feel things and then act on them because you felt them. There's a lot more to my story, which is about me learning to consciously choose what I do rather than do something as a reaction, to do it as a response, if that makes sense. And in responding to a situation, one needs to sit with the impetus of it, or the thing for longer. So it's less reactionary, it's more of a response.
Yeah, so instead of it being more of an impulse to the response, it's more of a
Yes.
conscious decision, right?
Yeah, well
Yeah.
said, Mark. You said that in like 3 words. Yeah, but I some say I'm tangential. It's true. Jimmy words.
Yeah. Yeah. And then and kind of like what you're speaking on before, to give yourself a little bit of grace, you know, is that kind of like what you're
Mm.
speaking on before, to give yourself a little bit of grace to, how you react to things, and, for what you're doing throughout your day? Is that kind of what you're insinuating when you're talking about, what you're talking about? Is that kind of what you meant by that?
Uh, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, we're at a position now where I can't remember word for word what I just said, but I think that's the gist of what I was saying. Mm,
Yeah. Now, Jimmy, you shared your amazing journey, with riding your push bike, getting hit by the speeding car, turning your life upside down, getting cranioplasty. Not too sure
mm,
what it's called. It's somewhere around there, right? And then
yeah.
battling through, learning how to redo everything all over again, then struggling with depression and all the emotionally stuff that impacted your life, and dealing with that, to the extent where you were, thinking about committing suicide, and then ultimately, triumphantly overcoming all of that, Jimmy, and, coming out on the winning end. And look where you're sitting now. You pretty much have, you know, but you did say you had a lot of therapy, both physically and mentally. But essentially, you talked about how, that you also learned that you needed to do self therapy, and, but essentially, you have recovered greatly, in both areas. Now, do you have any concluding thoughts, Jimmy, for our audience?
Um, I think it's so easy to. I don't know how to put this. I always run out of words, but I've got it. It's right there. But it's so easy to undermine yourself in a uh, like in the the like the really intense, difficult parts of um, coming from a traumatic experience, um, and that is not an at all accurate assessment of what you are. Like I think it's like uh, our self worth is much higher than we might at times think. I guess is what I'm saying, and a really great way to reconnect or to actually make new connections with yourself is through engagement with routine. That pretty much is how my progression kept going up. I did more, I attempted more, and in attempting more, you then realize you're capable. But I think doing so in a way where you're being realistic and also remembering that just being here, you have achieved so much. Yeah. That's kind of my point, man.
I love it. That was amazing. I love those concluding thoughts there, Jimmy. That was awesome. Now, my concluding thoughts kind of was little piggyback off of what you were talking about before. You know, we go through these traumatic events, and we aren't the only ones that are affected by it. Our families are affected by it. Our friends are affected by it, and you know we have to sometimes, you know, take a step back. Um, we need to give ourselves a little grace, give ourselves a little, you know, a little leeway on some of the actions, you know, that we had either made decisions on and whatnot. So those are my concluding thoughts for this show here, Jimmy. And I just want to say, Jimmy, that I loved everything that you had to share today. It was an incredible journey that you had, Jimmy, and truly inspirational. It really was. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap it up with a little prayer that we do each and every week. Dear Heavenly Father, I ask you to continue to watch over our community. There are a few in our community that need a little extra care and attention as they have some sick and loved ones that need your help and guidance on what to do next in their journey. As we know that there is always a path or a light that you have set forth in everyone's life. And I ask that you show them in due time that they know where exactly you have the path set for them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
You saw down, sitting on the ropes. Your chill's proud, taking blow on blow after blow. The clock turns, spinning